Are you ready? Do you say yes? Yes. I think we're ready. What was this? Is that what it is? I'll just do that. Okay. Mashed potatoes and what? Let's see, where are the sides at?
Maybe at the very
And how about mac and cheese?
You want bacon on that white meat?
Sure.
And peanut?
You just have like a brisket sandwich.
Yeah. Do you want slice or chopped brisket?
Chopped.
French fries okay with that?
Do you have tater tots here?
We don't.
Yeah, that's fine. Do you have garlic bread here?
We do not.
All right.
Fried pickles, bottle caps. Awesome. Thank you.
Oh, apparently that was. I don't know how that's gonna work. I just don't want to
Do you want to? I mean, we could cancel it and switch it to horizontal.
No, it just needs to be farther away. Do you want to set it up there? Do you want to set it up there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we got 16 hours.
Actually, that's a great idea because then it won't look like. Is that good?
I just can't still just be in front of us? No, it's not good.
It's gonna be hard to read people's. There we go. Look at that. That's funny.
It's going to be over just a little bit this way.
Okay.
Please.
So I'll have to get.
I think a tiny bit more. I think that's probably good.
It's on. So we've got 2 people watching already. Let me get it on my.
Okay, hey, if you're watching, we are just getting started. We're actually having lunch here. Tell us if it's too loud around us or if you can hear us. That would help us out a ton.
I think it got louder as soon as we hit
It did,
play.
yeah. So let us know if you can hear us. We just went and saw The Heretic this week, and it is all the rage. It is all the buzz. Everybody is talking about it. It seems like all the anti-Mormons love it, and anybody who disagrees with a love assessment of this movie, that it's the greatest movie ever made, is labeled as a pro-Mormon. So it seems like you're either in one of 2 camps. Either you loved the movie, and that's a good thing, or you hated it, and so everybody's attacking you. So we aren't making an assessment about the movie itself, about if it was a good. Well, we probably will make a little bit of an assessment about that.
And we might have to do another stream on this too, because we have just been chatting about it nonstop since we watched the movie. And I think we have some points of view that I think are a little bit different than everybody else. So
first of all, the first thing that I will just think, so we are having lunch. We are at a little restaurant here in North Dallas. And again, if you're just joining us, let us know if you can hear us. We're using microphones, but we want to make sure it's not too loud.
our rent house is going.
But I just, so I think the first thing I want to do is, hey, we are in North Dallas. Thanks for joining us. So I think the first thing that I wanted to point out was just, there is a history of the Mormons strategically putting things out in the media or asking its members to do stuff like the famous media fast, like social media fast, stay off social media when things are coming out in the news. And so that's my first comment, is just things have been coming out in the news. There's a huge 91 cases of reports against the Mormon church for SA abuse. And it just happens that this movie has come out that is totally deflecting right away from the church. And then there's also the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives that have come out, which is deflecting away from the church, right? And both of these things are just being attacked hardcore by all the members. And so all the members are doing all the hard work for the PR department.
Yep. So, but let's talk about the movie a little bit.
Yeah, well, I thought that was about the movie.
No, it was
yeah,
about the
let's
movie.
go. All right.
So if you've seen The Heretic, starts out with a couple of female missionaries going to investigate her house. I guess it sets the premise where I think it tries to shock you a little bit by their discussion in the very beginning.
Well, I think what it's doing is it's setting up like that he's this nice, likable, honest guy that you should trust, that you should value what he has to say.
Oh, so yeah. So
I just think
Hugh Grant's character?
Yeah, that you should value what he has to say.
Sure.
So you should value his critique against the church.
Okay, but first we're setting up the female.
Oh, sorry. I thought everybody had seen it. Okay, go ahead. So we aren't explaining anything. We are just having, sorry, thanks. We got a question. What are you guys exactly explaining? So we're not explaining anything. We are giving a viewpoint about how we think this movie is actually very pro-Mormon. The very pro-Mormon movie. Everybody's talking about all the things that have come up about this movie and how it is so anti-Mormon, and it brings up all these questions about the church and things that people don't think about. But in our estimation, we're asking the question, is it actually pro-Mormon? Is it actually promoting the church?
Yes, we're talking about the movie Heretic. It's about a character, Hugh Grant, who traps essentially two female missionaries.
And we will be giving away spoilers. So if you're watching, there will be spoilers.
Spoiler. We thought this would be fun. We're trying this out. If it's too noisy and too disruptive, I do like the idea of these weekly, like just chatting on certain topics. But our premise is that the movie is actually very pro-Mormon, and I think maybe we could just rip that Band-Aid off right off the bat, because the sister missionaries go in. They're scared almost immediately by this guy because he locks the door, freaks them out. But then he goes on to show how the Bible's a copy of the Torah, everything's a copy of a copy, and then eventually the Book of Mormon, which he's read profusely, and he claims that he's searched for the one true religion, and inherently goes down this huge rabbit hole where I think we're going to do some huge spoilers where for him the true religion is control, which I think everyone takes at face value in this movie. But I think the reason why it's inherently like pro-religion, not even just pro-Mormon, is because he takes the separate turn and goes for like more Satanist evil control. So I think in anything, it actually like in the end proves religion rather than I think what maybe the movie intended was, which was just to make people think provocatively.
So in a horror movie, you tend to be sympathetic towards the victims. And in this case, are you sympathetic towards the victims? Like, is this a movie where you're sympathetic towards the people who are in trouble?
I think so.
So how does that make you value the authority of the villain?
To me, at the very end, he had no redeemable qualities.
Right, like, and I think that's the whole point. Is it's so hard to take this guy seriously because he is like the biggest psychopath you've ever seen.
And it kind of shows like the yin and yang. Do religions control people? Yes, and I think his problem was that religions are not true because they control people. So he found the one true religion that controlled people, and he didn't even do a very good job of it. He actually had to put people in cages and trap them and really control them forcefully. So
the question to me is, what's the difference between control and lying? So I made all these notes, like, what's the difference between control versus manipulation, abuse versus gaslighting, manipulation versus abuse, and I wrote this one wrong, or I did this one wrong, or I did them twice. Like, how was what was the point of him controlling? So he makes this comment in the film about how he could control exactly what was going to happen because he knew that they were controlled. So he could control their behavior because he knew how they'd been controlled by the Mormon church. And so how did he control the sister missionaries?
Well, he knew that if he sent out a discussion request that they would come.
Right.
He knew they would come sit down and try and talk about the Book of Mormon. But
Yeah.
then after that, he really wouldn't let them leave, essentially. He locked the door. They actually tried to leave, and he always said, "You're welcome to leave," but then he wouldn't let them leave.
Right. Like he lied. Like I wrote down, like he lied to get them there. He lied to keep them there. He lied to listen to him. He claims this is about control and about how he knew how to control them. Like that wasn't control. It wasn't lying to get somebody to do something isn't control. It's manipulation.
Well, and notice as soon as the one sister missionary wasn't buying it, he killed her. Like that was pretty abrupt,
Right.
Because she argued back.
I mean, he lied about the prophet, the blueberry candle, the resurrection, the near-death experience. He lied about his wife. He lied about the pie. He lied about letting them leave. He lied about where the exit was. Like that's not control. It's not even manipulation.
Right.
It's just straightforward lying. It's putting somebody in a position where their entire choice is removed. It's actually abuse. So he's trying to claim that everything he's doing is about control. And then the greater question that I think it brings up is, or I guess the question, the more I ruminated over it, is he trying to make the comparison that the church, I'm trying to think where I wrote, I have too many notes. Is he trying to make a comparison where the church is taking away your life by the lies that they tell you? And so he's doing the same thing, and he's justified in doing it because of what his belief system is.
So, and I just had this thought just now. So he was looking for the one true religion, like the one that started it all. And as they go down into the basement and they're going through multiple doors where then you see the pentagram and you see Satan and all the Luciferian Baal stuff, I realized that right now that he thinks that the Bible, the Torah, the Book of Mormon, all of that are copies of Luciferianism.
Yeah.
So he sees Luciferianism as the one true religion.
Well, so he never talks about God in the sense that he's looking for the true God or he's looking for the answers. He's just saying that religion is about control. So you have a religion, the way that you believe in religion is because you have control. And I think to his point was that all religions are about control. And he was subscribed to Satanism, Luciferianism, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
What I think, and what I think is this movie was so on the nose, like it didn't leave any room for thought or interpretation. Like he supposedly asked these girls questions, but he didn't even ask any of the really broader questions. Like he was so focused on the origins of this specific religion that he couldn't talk about like the pitfalls of like current religion. But I felt like we were like having a discussion about 200 years in the past versus, well, what about religion like today? What about religion right now?
Right. And now I realize as we're actually doing this live that we should do like a long form format of it because I mean there's a lot to dig into. One of the things we talked about earlier was just even the unbelievable of the film itself, how one of the sister missionaries is completely aloof and dumb.
Yeah.
And then she becomes like super philosophical and basically becomes Matlock by the end.
Right.
And cracks the case wide open.
Well, not only that, but she had to tell us every minute detail of what he was doing. Like there was nothing, everything was on the nose. You couldn't watch this film and just appreciate like the questions that he was raising. You couldn't watch it and have a running like question in your head about what was happening because they just had to sit and tell you every single minute detail. So a movie about control where they're controlling the narrative that you walk away with thinking because they told you every single thing that was transpiring as it was transpiring.
Yeah. So in that regard, I mean, it's an interesting movie. It's getting so much press right now. At least I see it all over my feeds. People are so excited about it. When really it's not. I don't think it's as deep as people think it is. People do talk about. I'm curious what are your thoughts on the butterfly at the end? What do you think of that? I think the producers mentioned that it's just supposed to be thought provoking, but.
Well, so she wanted to come back as a butterfly, even though that has nothing to do with, that's actually anti-Mormon.
The reincarnation.
Yeah, to believe actually reincarnation is part of the Luciferian religion, which is a whole other topic to discuss, comparisons between the two. But reincarnation, so somebody came back to show her. I feel like it was an answer to a prayer after she had said. So she says at the end that she knows prayer doesn't work. Then the butterfly lands on her arm because she says what she really wants is to come back and give people hope.
She wants to land on their finger.
Right, land on their finger and give them hope that they know. Right? So then she proceeds through the movie. She admits she doesn't believe in prayer. And then at the end, her prayer actually worked. How is that not pro-Mormon? How is that not showing, well, these good girls, she was a good girl, she escaped, God blessed her that way, and so then he answered her prayers. Like, that feels very pro-Mormon to me.
I think people are saying that butterfly is... Oh, here we go. Awesome, thank you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Anything else I can get you?
Nope, I think this is good. Maybe a fork. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Awesome, thank you. All right. I've got some fried chicken.
And
some bacon macaroni and cheese.
Oh, did we try that on last time?
I don't know.
We came here because we thought it would be quiet, but it's not quiet.
Well, it's
on a Saturday afternoon.
Busy. But that being said, I think this is kind of, at least for us, this is fun, and we could do these frequently with maybe even less serious topics too. But yeah, anybody watching right now, is it too noisy in here? Can you still hear us okay? Can you tap that like button? We'll find out.
Okay, so I think the things that make this movie come across as pro-Mormon, or that you could make the argument that this movie is very pro-Mormon, is number one, the villain has no redeemable qualities. Absolutely none. And he didn't... When I saw the previews for this movie, which we'll talk about in a minute, I'm not trying to go off track, but I want to talk about the maze that he had created, like the 3D maze that he created. But the reasons that I think this movie come across as so pro-Mormon are, number one, the villain, right? He's so irredeemable and he's so unlikable. And he's so, and in movies, like, villains typically aren't likable, but in psychological thrillers, they are. Like that psychological thriller we just watched about the guy who got in the accident and he went to the hospital. Did you remember that? And his wife and daughter were in the hospital and he got in that terrible car accident, fractured.
Yeah.
He was so likable. And there's tons of psychological, like, you love The Fight Club, like, all of those characters are extremely likable. It's a psychological thriller. This one, like, you are rooting for the missionaries because this guy's so evil. He's so awful. Yep. And how can you take what he says with any grain of trust, authority, legitimacy, reason when he's so unlikable? And not only that, but he gives them a door and he says, hey, belief or disbelief. And no matter what they choose, he's not trying to teach them anything. He's trying to capture them. So if it was anti-Mormon, the disbelief door should have led them right out the exit, but it wasn't. He didn't care what they believed or what they disbelieved. He had an agenda and he just was going to barrel that in no matter what. The other reasons are you've got the sister who ends up praying and then her prayer is answered.
Yep.
And just all of the arguments that he brings up even the sister missionaries are even able to refute a lot of them. Like why is the Jewish faith so limited? Oh, obviously the Holocaust. Like, and it's easy to refute a lot of them. Like he has a lot of comments about messiahs that appeared before Jesus Christ. But a lot of them are just resurrection stories, and resurrection stories are rife throughout history. There's so many of them. So I think there's a lot of.
Well, I think the biggest thing is if you have the choice between the counterfeit religions, whatever he thinks of, copies of copies, or the original one. Like, I'll take the counterfeit ones any day, rather than be a total evil.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Person like that.
Yeah.
So there's nothing is even remotely enticing about his proposition.
Well, and if his idea of the one true religion being control is actually lying and abuse, then that makes like the version of control that religions provide a lot more appealing. It's a lot more appealing to me to be told being a good person gets me to heaven than being told somebody's going to lie to you and abuse you around every turn because they're horrible, evil psychopaths.
Capture you in a basement.
Yeah, like that, like a few of the things I would have loved for them to explore in this movie, I don't think he had to be. They could have done the same thing if they wanted to raise questions about religion, specifically the Mormon church or not. If they wanted to raise questions about religion, what I think they could have done is what they started to do, but I have a feeling they were trying to rush through the movie because of all the media hype and they wanted to monopolize on that. But actually put them in a maze, actually give them choices, and those choices either reward you, either give you net benefits, or they give you consequences. Like, that's what I think would have been so phenomenal about that. And I would have loved to see, since this was pointed towards Mormonism, they had that one small section of it where, I mean, who was he? Was he the mission president? Was he the zone leader? Why was he alone? Like, who was Topher Grace that came to the door?
Yeah. Well,
So who do you think he was?
I think he was supposed to be a stake president or a bishop. Because
would the stake president be concerned about where the sister missionaries were?
It should have been a mission president.
Right.
And maybe, yeah. But it could be, too, that they went with bishop or stake president because non-Mormons watching the movie would have been able to understand that better than a mission president. But he was obviously a mission president.
Right.
Which would have been okay for him to run for him.
Well, so to have them explore, like, why did the church abandon these sister missionaries? Like, they're supposed to be home at a certain time, and if they're not, that would have been really great to know. That would have been a psychological thriller. Like, why were they left? Like, he came for a minute, but the exploration of that would have been incredibly interesting. And it makes me think of a lot of the topics that they didn't cover. Like, they didn't cover, and I said this before, and we don't necessarily have to go over the things they could have covered, but there's a lot of current controversy, a lot of current issues with the Mormon religion that are really prevalent right now, that are out, and everybody's talking about them. 60 Minutes has done exposés on them. Like it's not an anti-Mormon trope to talk about, where's tithing going and what's happening in the temples, like things like that, like, which could have been part of his discussion, but he was so focused on the origins and the iterations, which I think was really interesting. And that's where I think the movie went off the rails, is after they had to make that first choice and you just went down this evil rabbit hole. Like, how long has he been digging underneath his house?
Well, I think he's had his slaves do it, because he said his wife built that area.
Oh, he said that? I did not catch that. His wife built the underground.
No, built the sanctuary, like the
church area.
The church
okay.
Area. So Who's his wife? Because it kind of implies that it's that prophetess coming in, but it's not.
Right, it can't be because
They're just disposable.
there's so many of them.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I think they kept everything simple to not overwhelm the viewer with too much data. But I think it's deeper. It's got a deeper. I think The Heretic is deeper than face value horror movie.
It is, but I think it's hard to get past how evil he was to even get to those deeper level meanings.
Oh yeah.
There's one thing I wanted to bring up. Oh, the other thing I wish that they had gone into with the movie that I think would have been a much deeper psychological trip is, again, what does the church do with the sister missionary after she escapes? Does she have to finish out her mission? Does she get any treatment? Does she, get any, mental help? Or is she just told that God saved her, she's righteous, and to show her devotion, then she should continue to go out and serve?
Mm-hmm.
Because that has happened.
Or talk about her story to
Big crowds of people to show God's love for her.
So I'm realizing as we do this,
It came out of my knife.
we can watch this whole thing again.
You can what?
Watch this again. Everything we've talked about can be we can re-record the shorts, just saying, hey, did you notice this in The Heretic? I think those would be pretty good shorts.
Mm-hmm.
TikToks. It's interesting. We keep having people jump in. So now we have 6 and it kind of ebbs and flows. DM Games is our hardcore friend here.
So here's a couple of my notes. I think it's ironic that the entire premise of this movie is an elderly man trapping young women and forcing them to do what he wants.
And then he's complaining about polygamy.
Yeah, and then he's complaining about polygamy.
And
he's such a hypocrite.
And he has 6 or 7 women locked up in cages.
He's a polygamist. He's a polygamist, and he's talking. He does the whole thing about. Again, another pro-Mormon, what's the word I'm thinking of? It's just another reason that this is pro-Mormon. He was a polygamist. And here's the other thing: who abused him so much that he became who he is? I think that's something really to consider. Who here could make the argument that he's not an ex-Mormon? Only ex-Mormons care this much about feeling, like they were controlled and they were duped, and how far he took it past that. He's obviously, and this is just a totally aside, but he's obviously been obsessed with the church because he most likely has been abused by it. So how was he abused? We're doing great, thank you. So that would be my question: is how was, and it's an unanswerable question, but how was he abused by the church?
We need a Heretic prequel. The early years. We don't even know his name, do we?
Mr. Reed.
Oh, it was Mr. Reed.
Yeah. So things that make a psychological thriller are to focus on the mental and emotional aspects of suspense and tension. And I feel like there was no suspense. You knew, there was suspense again up until they walked down the hall. And why? Why did they walk down the hall? It wasn't because they were testing. I can think of no legitimate reason why they walked down the hall. They could have stayed in the front room by the front door. They did not need to go walk into the sanctuary, into the middle of the house where they were, much more at risk. Stay at the front where they could have yelled. Stay at the front because wouldn't sister missionaries have realized somebody would have come looking for them? So wouldn't they want to stay by the door where they could be heard? There was no suspense. They walked right into it. Everybody knew what this guy was going to do. He was super charming until you realized that the door was locked and he was going to kill them. And so I just did not feel that suspense. If they had done the maze where they could have picked and choose and whatever they chose would have ended in a different result than what the other choice would have been, then that would have been suspense and tension. Mm-hmm. But this was just so on the nose. It was, I hate the Mormon church. You guys are dumb, and I'm going to kill you because you're dumb, and I follow Satan.
Yeah.
With
That's it in a nutshell.
I mean, that is kind of my takeaway of it. And psychological thrillers are supposed to have complex relationships between characters. Like, what were the complex relationships in this? Like, the complex relationship I'm left with is wondering why he hates the Mormon church so much. How was he hurt by religion that he hates it so much?
He obviously also hates women.
Right.
He cuts her finger off. That one in the cage cuts her finger off, keeps them cold, so they're delirious.
Yeah, they didn't really develop a relationship. What would have been, I think, again, more compelling is if he had developed more of a relationship with them, if he had met with them more often than just showing up at his house once, because we would have been left feeling like maybe he's not going to kill them. But at no point did we not think everything's off here. Everything's wrong. He won't bring the wife out. Like, everything is wrong.
Yeah, and within like an hour, he's trying to convince them that they can kill themselves and be resurrected.
Yeah.
Did that work for his other victims? Like, that's crazy.
Oh, I wanted to bring this up earlier when I was talking about the mission president or whoever Topher Grace was. We have a comment.
Oh, I love the show. Maybe mind your own business and don't knock on doors.
Okay, so that's kind of our point, and that's actually leads to what I was just about to say. Is there's a paper trail. This guy could have never gotten away with what he was doing.
So my 2 cents too. He did invite them though. Like this wasn't just random knocking on doors. Is typically in the Mormon church, you can sign up online for missionaries to come visit your home.
Well, and he admitted that to the man who came.
Yeah, to Topher Grace. Yep. So I agree. Yeah. So yeah, with the amount of victims he was taking, how could he hide that? Like, it seems like.
I mean, yeah, the first rule of being a murderer is don't leave a paper trail. They had it in their appointment book. Their mission president knew where they were going to be. And he had done this at least 6 times because there were 6 women down, in his basement. So he'd been leaving a paper trail for at least, 6 other victims.
But I also think that the victims in the basement aren't necessarily Mormon. They could be Jehovah's Witness, other proselyting faiths.
And so when that many women go missing in an area, wouldn't the authorities get involved and start connecting the dots?
You think so?
Oh, these are religious people that keep going missing. And here it goes. So for the record, I did really like the show. I was disappointed that it didn't make it a deeper level. I was disappointed he was such a villain because you couldn't actually have a moment to process all the things that he was going over because he was so evil.
But I love your comment, my 2 cents. And this has been fun.
And he's so focused on controlling them that he has the point of carving out the little dolls. I just feel like it felt really like you didn't know that you knew he was looking at them, but then what's the other side of that? Is it again? There's a paper. It just
when he had that wooden mini scale diorama of the whole layout.
Yeah, what was so disappointing.
The place is so tiny; it's not really a maze.
Right.
You have the 2 doors that go to that bottom area, and then you have a tunnel underneath where they hide everyone. Which I'm assuming there's probably a way to access that from the outside, but maybe there's not. But it doesn't seem like he really needs to put little wooden figures throughout to say where they're at.
Right. And it was so cool when she was running through it and they showed the top-down view, but that's all we got. Like, why didn't we have like this? And that was part of the trailer. It was like you got to see them in this maze. So it was so disappointing for me that there weren't actual choices. And then if the one true religion is control, then he could have controlled the choices they made and knew which choices they would have made to lead them this path. But instead, he gave them a choice and it all led to converged in the same exact spot.
Yeah, they do a good job with religious symbolism though. Whereas the church, the Christian statues and metaphors are all up on the third level essentially, and then you have the middle level, and then all the evil Luciferian churches down below. So that hierarchy of like death underneath and life up above.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So actually, they covered kind of the three kingdoms as well.
Right.
Right. So you had the women in cages who were in outer darkness, essentially caged up, and then the middle area was kind of the terrestrial kingdom, like in the in between. Not very good, but at least you had blueberry pie.
And again, how is that not pro-Mormon? You've got him below as Satan, and you've got the missionaries on top that are the light.
Yeah, the angel references.
Like, if you wanted to make this an anti-Mormon film, do not make him so villainous. Have him bring them in. Have him bring up all the questions, all of the controversy, all of the things, and guide them on a path towards actualization.
Yeah.
Instead of guiding them towards, yep, I'm evil, and I'm nobody can be more evil than me. I'm a true psychopath.
Yeah, potentially that sister missionary ended up with a stronger testimony at the end than when she started.
Right. And the sister missionary was resurrected enough to kill the bad guy. Like, she was dead by all accounts, and then she came back to life to kill him and
answer her prayer.
Yay!
I liked it though. It's a good movie.
Yeah, I did like it. But
my 2 cents agrees.
If we're talking about control versus manipulation, gaslighting, and abuse, he didn't control. He didn't give them any choices. He just abused them.
Speaking of control,
like, control is such a credible concept, and
so speaking of control, everybody tap that like button. Let's see if I can control you.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think of these lunch streams? Should we keep doing this? Should we talk more about the heretic? Should we talk about other things? That's the question. Should we show you the food we're eating? Should we talk about where we're eating?
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of notes basically about how he abused them, how he controlled them, and none of it was.
Man, you should write a blog post about this.
I know, right? I've had a lot of thoughts about this.
Or like, record it in a better situation. Just read it all. Go off on a rant.
Trying to think what else I have here and going through it. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, there's a million things, like the woman eating the pie and then falling over dead. Who would ever believe that? Like, in a movie, at least, you can do things to slow someone's heart down and make them appear dead.
Yeah, have anybody seen the TV show Lost?
I mean, if he chopped her into a bunch of pieces and then resurrected her, that would have been something. But, yeah.
Nothing was about control because it was all deception. I mean, I think that's really what it comes down to. Is he didn't control them, he deceived them, and he lied, which really isn't that really what we know about Satan. And when that's the end result of something, that Satan lied about something, or this character who is manifesting as Satan lied, then doesn't that make the other side appear true?
Yep.
So I think they really failed at making an anti-Mormon movie, or even one that made you want to consider questioning the Mormon faith, because he was so evil. And there were so many other ways that could have been psychologically thrilling to go over and to discuss about that.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much my takeaway. I mean,
Yeah, and the interesting thing is something I think I'll have different thoughts about all the time. I'll tell you, it did its job well in making us think and contemplate and analyze and kind of reflect on things. In that regard, it was a good movie. But in the plot holes and believability, and it wasn't the best.
I think that, like, I mentioned this at the beginning, but anti-Mormons are so happy this movie was made because it's talking about the control that they feel within the church. But the main difference is that they can leave the church, but these women couldn't leave. They couldn't leave what he was doing. So he was trying to make this comparison. But what was he saying is that it doesn't matter who controls them, they're still being controlled. And that in the end, like, we have no control over our lives at all. So what's the point? Like, he was able to control people, but he took away the control from everybody else.
Yep. Everything was a deception.
Hey, that's what I wrote. Did you just read
No,
that?
I just read it.
Yeah. So I think a lot of things, if the whole point of the movie was to question Mormonism, they did do a lot of that. I think they undercut their message, though, by making him so pure evil.
But maybe I don't know. Maybe that was the intention.
Okay. How so?
Well, if they wanted to bash the church, they could have done a lot better than like polygamy in the
Right.
Book of Mormon,
Right.
right? I mean,
Well, they didn't even really address the Book of Mormon at all.
well, they called it a counterfeit of the Bible,
Oh, sure.
right?
But then the Torah, then they bashed all scripture. I mean, because they said the Bible wasn't even the first one, or did they?
No, they said the Bible came from the Torah, and the Torah was the OG, which I don't know if he's indicating that was like the original, like Torah, so that which would make that the one true religion, right? If that was the original. So a little bit confusing there.
Well, why didn't he bring out the Luciferian Bible? There's a Luciferian Bible too.
You know, I would like to watch it again and see if it's down there in the basement. Because it claims the one true religion is down in that basement. And so there is a Luciferian Bible. I've never seen it, but I've heard about it.
Okay, if the one true religion is in the basement, then isn't it death?
I don't know.
Because that's what all those women had waiting for them.
Well, it's all what everyone has waiting for them, regardless if you're in a cage or not.
True, but not guaranteed.
I think
at the moment he decides.
I think it could be control, but I think it's evil. That's what's down there. It's torture.
Right.
It's unhappiness. It's misery. I mean, it wasn't control. It was about making people miserable.
Then again, pro-Mormon, because
Yeah.
just about anything would make me happier than being caged in a basement. Anything.
And kept cold, so you're constantly miserable.
And having my fingers cut off.
Yeah.
Anything would make me happier than that.
Yep. So, I think we should end it. I think that's better.
Okay.
I'm feeling like that was good. This has been a fun run. This is an experiment. We're trying out new things. Eating lunch, having a date night.
Appreciate the comments. I would have loved to hear more about what you thought about it, especially people who have left the church and loved it. Like, I would love to have you comment, and I would love to hear, your take on it, about how can looking at the face of pure evil not take you anywhere else. Yeah. So I'd love to hear your comments if you feel so inclined to drop them in the comments. And thanks for watching.
Yeah.
I don't know how to stop these things.
How do you stop it? X?
I guess so.
Yep.